Hello everyone, welcome to yet another day in this, the Clown Decade, the decade where things are only going to get worse before they get better. And if there is any piece of media that shows that this is indeed the case, I think Doctor Who is one of the large contenders. Because not only is it a large part of my own childhood, I have watched all the new seasons from Christopher Eccleston all the way up to the first series with Jodie Whittaker. And if you want to hear my thoughts on that, I did a good hour and a quarter review on that series. I suggest you go watch it because I really think it is the video I put the most effort into, and unfortunately it didn't get that many views. And I really think it's good work, and I really think it was a good review. Even if the editing is subpar, but hey, I was an amateur and I was just having fun. And if you want to know where I saw early stages of the cancer of Doctor Who growing and spreading to make it little more than woke propaganda, then there's probably your best bet. As other people, such as JXE, will certainly tell you exactly how the writing was awful, I tell you how the writing was awful and how woke ideology has infected it. So do go give it a watch. But for now, we're talking about all of the issues going on around the new 60th anniversary special. Because what really piqued my interest in all this is just how crazy Russell T Davies, who revived the show and made it incredibly popular, is now just using it as pure propaganda. I mean, just listen to this clip.
But on set today, Davros is looking quite different.
We had long conversations about bringing Davros back because he's a fantastic character. Time and society and culture and taste has moved on.
Yes, already we're in the danger zone of, oh, it's the current year. That means it has to be year zero. That means everything we saw in the past, any trope we had, any ideas we had, they're all wrong and they have to go. That's literally what he says right now.
And there's a problem with the Davros of old in that he's a wheelchair user who is evil. And I had problems with that, and a lot of us on the production team had the problems with that, of associating disability with evil. And trust me, there's a very long tradition of this.
I mean, not technically wrong. Even in the Bible, there were themes of, oh, we all think that disabled people are evil, they must have sinned against God. And Jesus just replies with basically, no, not really, they are made in the image of God. This man hasn't sinned, he is simply disabled so that the works of God might be displayed in his life. So Jesus kind of upended that whole thing of disabled people are evil, and no one's really thought that for thousands of years at this point, thanks to Jesus and Christianity, so I don't know what he's talking about.
I'm not blaming people in the past at all, but the world changes, and when the world changes, Doctor Who has to change as well.
So in one sense, yes, I suppose. You're obviously going to have better production value, you're going to obviously have settings change, become more modern as the world changes, you know, iPhones get introduced and things like that. When it comes to morals, I don't see why it's the year 2023, therefore Davros can't be in a wheelchair anymore. I don't really understand that reasoning. And if you are worried about, oh, we've got too many evil wheelchair users, put good people in wheelchairs, which they do in the new episode, by the way. And as I say, I'm planning to review the new special on Thursday evening, and you might see why having someone in a wheelchair is not a good idea for in every case. But you'll have to wait for Thursday for that.
So we made the choice to bring back Davros without the facial scarring and without the wheelchair or his support unit, which functions as a wheelchair. I say this is how we see Davros now.
This is the problem with the whole thing. If we saw a previous version of Davros before he had his accident, before he was put on life support and in a wheelchair, that would be fine. Oh, we want to explore this part of his history. That would be fine. But no, that's not what he's saying here. He is saying without a shadow of a doubt, we are never going to see Davros in his iconic form again, in his wheelchair, in his life support system, with his third eye on top of his head since he's blind. Because it is problematic, because it goes against the modern sensibilities within the BBC and the New Elite. And that's unfortunately all Doctor Who is seen as these days, a vehicle for propaganda. The propaganda that if you think a wheelchair user or a disabled person can be evil, you are evil.
This is what he looks like. This is 2023. This is our lens. This is our eye. Things used to be in black and white. They're not in black and white anymore. And Davros used to look like that, and he looks like this now. And that we are absolutely standing by.
We stand by it. 23 and beyond, Davros never in a wheelchair again because he's evil. And it's just such a poor meta-argument. What was the issue with Davros being on a wheelchair before? Yes, some kids in wheelchairs were called Davros. How many of them were bothered by it? I would put the number down to near zero. Basically nobody. There was never an uproar about Davros being in a wheelchair. This is This is trying to jump the gun. This is finding issues where there aren't any issues, even to the wokies. It's incredible how this has happened. And Russell T Davies isn't kidding about this. He literally does not care what people think if they're against this. As this comment on Instagram shows, Davros isn't a wheelchair user, he's a partially mutated Khaled in a life support system halfway between Khaled and Dalek. Like, I was perfectly fine seeing Davros pre-accident. I think a lot of fans have wanted to see that for some time, which they have, I have too. But to insist that this is for a better representation of disabled people is just utterly bizarre. If we're now going to pretend, as you suggest, Davros was never in a chair or he just got better, well, that undermines one of the greatest villains who ever created. And Russell T Davies here just replies, tough. He doesn't care. You're a fan of the old Who? I don't care. I'm making new Who, and new Who is for a very different audience than people who actually care about Doctor Who. And I think the worst part of all of this is that when they were making Davros back in 2008 for the Revive series, this is what Russell T Davies had to say. Seriously, Davros is meant to be horrific, and we've had so many withered geniuses in sci-fi lately, like Emperor Palpatine in Star Wars, that I needed something to make everyone sit up and realise that this man is the king of horror. The original and the best, and he's been through so many physical changes over the years, I wanted to add one of my own. I asked Louise to give me the new jacket buckles because I wanted to look like a straitjacket. It just seemed to fit, because he's so insane. So Russell T Davies back in 2008, oh, you can even make this disabled man look insane, because that's scary. Great stuff, this adding to the character, this adding to the design. This was all fine back in 2008 when we were allowed to have fun. But we're not allowed to have fun anymore, and we need proper large-scale propaganda to make sure you can't have fun. And it's not just on the disabled issue, obviously, that he's outspoken about. This is what he has to say about the whole LGBT agenda.
But not just representation for representation's sake either, Russell. Rose is a character. There's a lot more going on there than...
Absolutely. And actually, it becomes a vital part of the plot that Rose contains the he and the she and the neither and the both. Yeah. And that's a new future. Rose goes beyond words, beyond definitions.
I mean, in terms of the story, they certainly do try and get that across. And just for the sake of people who don't follow Doctor Who, Rose here plays a trans woman, or girl I guess, she's supposed to be 15 in the show, who for reasons I'll go into detail on Thursday, is supposed to be beyond labels, is supposed to represent basically going beyond human, as Russell T Davies says. And it's absolutely insane. A lot of trans propaganda is literally trying to say being trans is being beyond human, being transhuman, being effectively a god. They were quite open about that in the opening monologue of that Joan of Arc trans play they tried to put on at they did put on at the Globe Theatre, where they literally do say trans people are gods, and it's the same here. Except when it came down to it in the episode, it wasn't about your biology or anything about that, it was just, you know, it's a vibe. Being a woman is a vibe, whether you're trans or really a woman. That's what the show comes across as, and you have to wait till Thursday to know what I mean by that, or just go watch it and work it out yourself. I don't really mind. Either way, it's insane.
And it is important. I think that visibility thing, I said before, is like, as you were saying, if you grow up seeing this stuff, homophobia and transphobia happens when it's something you've never seen before. I
really hate this idea that you're just scared of the unknown, that's all it is. I really do hate that idea, because a lot of the time people are very open-minded, or fairly open-minded anyway. And that's not the issue at all. The issue is that it genuinely does make people feel uncomfortable. And specifically on trans people, I think a big reason for that is that your brain is telling you, because of all the wiring thanks to biology, you will see these very masculine features on trans women. Your brain will tell you, oh, they're a man, and then all of society around you will feel is saying, no, it isn't. Or you will see things that confuse you, and it can be very subtle, it can be blooming obvious. And don't get me wrong, we've had very closed-minded societies in the past. We were forcing gay men to go on hormone replacement therapy and take estrogen against their will because they were caught being homosexuals. Obviously we've moved past that. Obviously nobody thinks that is the right thing to do anymore. But for some reason, people like Russell T Davies and a lot of the trans lobby think we need to overcompensate for that, and so push absolutely ridiculous propaganda that we'll get into in a second.
You can temper that reaction and change it if you introduce these images to people happily and normally and calmly when they're young.
I mean, he's not even trying to hide it at this point, so you've got to admire the audacity there. They aren't even trying to hide that they're trying to make Doctor Who blatant propaganda. And don't get me wrong, I have no doubt in my mind that they think they have good intentions, but the reality of the situation is that all it is going to do is create a society that's even more uncomfortable around trans people. because of the way they have portrayed it. It's very difficult for a very new category of people known as trans people to be brought out like this. We're all told then that they are gods and for life to carry on as normal. Because that's the big problem. You get a trans person in Doctor Who, what's the first thing they do? Effectively treat her like a god. And a busybodying god at that. Wait till we get to the clip.
Then it just becomes normal. It is normal. I don't need to say it's normal, but that normality just becomes part of your world. You're not stressed, you don't freak, you don't react, you haven't lost anything, you don't hate anything. It's a better world.
I gotta tell you, I don't think I would have ever interacted with a trans person if it weren't for the internet. I didn't know any at university, I didn't know any at school, I haven't met any in real life outside of the internet since leaving the university. And those that I have met in real life, of course, I've met through the internet. And even then, out of those trans people, I have to say, I only really got on with a couple of them. And those happen to be the people that don't make being trans a huge part of their personality, and also accept that they are men dressing up as women, essentially. But when it came to the new episode of Doctor Who, they were incredibly preachy. In fact, there were some clips coming out of the episode that had the whole of Twitter going, "Oh my god, Doctor Who is dead," as if it hadn't already been dead for at least 5 years. But to be honest, I don't blame them, because this is the most out-and-out propaganda I think I've ever seen.
I promise I can help him get home and then you'll never see me again.
You're assuming he as a pronoun.
True.
Apologies for how quiet it is, that's about as loud as I can get it. But you've got subtitles, and to be honest, I think it's better if you don't hear it and just read it and groan by yourself anyway. Yes, that is the Doctor, not too sure about an alien species gender, calling it a he, while trying to help him get off the planet, by the way. And then this new trans character saying, "Oh, you can't assume gender pronouns, that's very offensive, sir." And the Doctor going, "You know what, you're right." And the thing is that kids will want to be like the Doctor and think that this is a normal way to act. In reality, a normal way to act and a good way to act is just to say, "Oh, shut up, you know what I mean."
Yes, sorry, good point. Are you he or she or they?
My chosen pronoun is the definite article. I am always the me.
Oh, I do that.
I hate this bit as well. That part's just not true. There's even a joke earlier in the episode where he's using the psychic paper to try and commandeer a taxi, saying, "Oh, look, we can go somewhere. I'm the master of something or other." And he says, "Oh, that says mistress." So clearly, no, Doctor. You do use gendered pronouns. The Doctor is your title. Nobody knows your name, apart from River's song. And absolutely everybody referred to you as a he up until Jodie Whittaker took over. And nobody thought twice about it. For some reason in 2023 we have to retcon everything about that. Even the idea of gender needs to be flipped on its head in Doctor Who. Thanks, Russell T Davies. So anyway, after all that, the episode finally came out, and all the right-on people at, say, The Guardian and The Independent were loving the show. Doctor Who, the Starbeast 60th anniversary special recap, giving it 4 stars. And the thing with The Guardian is that they give pretty much everything 4 stars because they have lazy reviewers. Has it really been more than a year since we bid Jodie Whittaker farewell in a special episode laden with old Who references that have been live blogged because we weren't sure if we were going to get David Tennant or Nkuti Gatwa at the end of it? It really has. But after a 4th wall-busting new viewers start here sequence, Russell T Davies, Tennant and Catherine Tate wasting no time in getting on with the whole new era of Who, now being made by Bad Wolf Studios and distributed by Disney globally, and with a visibly big hike in the budget. All that really means is that there's more explosions. I'm not going to lie, the CGI still isn't great. We've been promised a big bold reimagining of the show for this second Davies era, and while this wasn't quite that, it felt like a more than solid holiday special. Davies said at the launch he wanted it to be like a Pixar movie with laughs as well as scares the whole family could watch together. It successfully bolted a Sarah Jane's adventure-ish monster story involving kids onto an emotional reintroduction to Tennant and Tate. And you know what, for a review, I don't think that is a bad summary of the episode. It is definitely 2 stars, not 4. They were definitely trying to make it more funny than serious, and the problem is that they have had to absolutely ruin an old classic, a series finale classic, one of what is considered the best episodes of Doctor Who ever. They've had to take it and ruin it, because the whole point of that season finale was that Donna cannot ever see the Doctor again. It was a tragedy. She would literally die if she remembered who the Doctor was, because she became part Time Lord and a human brain can't comprehend that, and it would literally make her brain blow a fuse. And the emotion put into that scene by Catherine Tate, by David Tennant, by Bernard Cribbins, it was immense. It's a very memorable and an incredibly good episode, and this entire episode ruins it in favour of literally saying women are better than men and trans people are super people. It's unbelievable, but people lap it up, and The Guardian tries to rub it in your face. Yasmin Finley as Rose was a bright and kindly presence. The bores who thought the Whittaker era was too woke, which if you want to have proof that it is, please just watch my review of it, whatever that means in the context of a sci-fi show that has always pushed stories with progressive values, yes, but I don't think it's ever gone as far as to deny basic biology, will be choking on the scene where the Doctor is chastised by her for assuming the Meep's pronouns. I don't know about choking, it's just... You gotta ask, why is this in my Doctor Who show? And then you listen to Russell T Davies and you realise, oh, it's there for pure propaganda. You know, people like me don't choke about it. We choke about it when we hear the director literally say that we're bad people for complaining about it, for saying that it's weird, for saying it's not where we want to see the propaganda. But this is where we're at. The Guardian obviously love it. And their comments section reflects this. Well, that'll annoy all the right people. I was thinking exactly the same thing. I heard on the radio earlier that Jodie was actually the only Doctor that had two hearts. She was pregnant in her last few episodes, haha, lol, etc. Certain dark parts of the internet will have exploded in rage and anti-wokeness. Good. The problem with Doctor Who at the moment, in my opinion, is that this is all Doctor Who seems to be servicing. Frothing at the mouth leftists who are only happy when normal people are upset that they have to watch their favourite shows become propaganda. Yes, this has annoyed me. Am I the right person to annoy? In your mind, yes. Well, enjoy the lack of viewership. And trust me, we'll get onto that topic, but just one more comment that annoyed me. All I care about is how happy my non-binary kid is right now. Oh god, that's just made me cry again. My daughter's been messaging her non-binary friend, and they've been in tears. Oh, that's just wonderful. We're at a point where there is a mass delusion in not only kids, but parents as well, that the main and possibly only thing that matters is not only their child's happiness, but that they are protected against reality. Because identity has been broken down from all previous groups we had, whether it be nation or family or whatever it is, that now we have to completely make up new ones that just defy reality. And that's all that matters, and all people care about is that Doctor Who is reinforcing that. Well, I'm afraid to say that that is quite an evil thing to do, unfortunately, and the only solace I take in this is that it is clearly not working. The propaganda is successful on maybe about 10 to 15% of people. Everyone else hates it. And I hope this is a voice for those of you that hate this as well, and are only seeing things like this from The Guardian and the Metro. Doctor Who, The Star Beast, the 60th anniversary special is a TERF's worst nightmare. 4 stars. Like, that's the main thing they can say about it. It's going to annoy the right people. Watching Yasmin Finley come into her own as Rose Temple Noble, the cryptic tease at the end that Russell T Davies does so well, all those little throwbacks and more. Unfortunately, some people won't see any of that, as they won't be able to look past the fact that Doctor Who not only has a trans character, but an entire trans storyline, and not even that, but trans Joy. And apparently the storyline can't even make up whether she is a trans woman, non-binary, or some secret fifth thing. You see her father celebrating having the 2 best girls in the world by his side, her mother fiercely protecting her grandmother accidentally going by her wrong pronouns, but she's trying and the world doesn't end, and her head isn't bitten off. Though she is clearly uncomfortable about the whole thing, and that's never really addressed. But really, here's the kicker. Doctor Who has always had a massive queer fanbase. It has always been progressive. The showrunner Russell has already had a quote ready for the people who predictably will have issue over this. Speaking at a press event ahead of the episode's airing, he said he knew there were some people full of absolute hate and venom and destruction and violence who would like to see that sort of thing wiped off the screens entirely. To anyone who held those ideals, he declared, "Shame on you and good luck in your lonely lives." Which is quite an unfortunate thing to say, because Graham Linehan literally did have a lonely life for a couple of years because of all of this. Because although he could accept that trans people did exist, he also knew that the propaganda was pushing an entirely different story that was literally putting people in danger. But apparently if you worry about that, you deserve to be lonely, according to the person who is currently running my favourite show. Or my ex-favourite show at this point, unfortunately. So yes, not only have you annoyed me, you have called me evil, and you literally hope that I have a lonely life. You probably also wish I was dead, but you can't really say that in an interview, can you? But given Doctor Who writers in the past have literally had death threats for not being progressive enough, I would not be shocked if a lot of the fanbase did want someone like me dead. So I can't wait to go through the new episode on Thursday. Because the episode was so bad with its preachiness, even the BBC had to address it. saying that if you have been indifferent to Doctor Who, this episode won't be the one to convert you. And if you're altogether new to the show, you'll probably wonder what all the fuss has been about. And although the show has always been progressive, look at the number of stories over the decades about threats to the environment, the special is preachy and by the end, little more than a delivery system for the message. Even the BBC, this is a BBC review of this latest special, and even the BBC, which has been one of the frontrunners for pushing the message, even thinks that the special was too much on the preachy side, pushing the message too hard, and sacrificed good writing and a good episode for it. Naturally, after the episode aired to the rest of the world, there was another BBC review basically saying, oh, it was actually on point, it was good, it was a good episode, the message was good. Because the BBC is absolutely full of journalists who do think all you need to do is push the message, but it's good to see that some of the old guard are still there, trying to be objective about the whole thing. So in order to cope about this episode being absolutely great, Digital Spy came out with this article, Doctor Who 60th Anniversary Special sets ratings record. So I'd love to see how they think that's happened. Doctor Who made a grand return on Saturday with David Tennant, Catherine Tate and Russell T Davies back to celebrate the show's 60th anniversary and kick off its new era. The first of three's three anniversary specials, The Star Beast, translated all the hype into rating success. The episode had an overnight rating of 5.08 million according to figures quoted to BBC's entertainment correspondent Lezo Mzimba. Not only is this the biggest launch for a drama this year, it's also the biggest overnight ratings for an episode of Doctor Who since Resolution in 2019, which was the show's first New Year's special after years of Christmas Day instalments. In other words, it appears to be the most popular overnight viewings since the show got incredibly unpopular, so well done. At least you're doing better than when it was at its most unpopular, I suppose, but this is not setting ratings records. You got to bear in mind, barely anyone watches TV anymore, apart from boomers. I Believe I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here, featuring Nigel Farage, brought in just under 5 million views. The fact of the matter is that Doctor Who used to bring in, quite regularly, 7 to 8 to even 10 million views an episode, and the specials were of course even higher than 8 million typically, so the fact that it's managed to only just scrape 5 million views is actually quite pathetic. But now let's have a look at actual average viewers by the millions according to Wikipedia's entries for the Doctor Who specials. As you can see, even before the renewal in 2005, the television film even managed to get 9 million views, and that was woeful. The special at the 20th anniversary was 7.7 million people, and you look beyond that, you get to the David Tennant era, he peaked at 13 million views, and this new special only got just over 5 million. He's making just over a third of what he used to. And as you can see from the 13th Doctor or Jodie Whittaker's era, people were watching it less and less and less. They didn't even manage to get over 4.5 million views for these specials between January and October of last year. Because the fact of the matter is that old Whovians don't enjoy Who anymore. My dad even had to text me after this episode came out to say, oh my god, even David Tennant couldn't save this show. It's that insane. And the thing is, I watched it and it was actually better than a complete garbage fire I thought it was going to be. But you wait for my live stream on Thursday. I have things to say about this episode that do genuinely make me angry. And very little of it actually has to do with the blatant propaganda, because I can see past that. It's the fact they've Last Jedi'd it, and to be honest, I can see this 5 million being the peak of these viewership ratings, because I'm not going to watch the next ones. I've been told by the showrunner that I shouldn't watch this stuff, that it's not for me, and that I should find something better to do with my lonely life. And the people who are quote-unquote fans of it don't particularly care it has ruined previous episodes of Doctor Who, and only care that I don't like it. So, bully for you, I suppose, but this is radicalising me into writing my own book, because the amount of fiction that is coming out recently that is just utter nonsense, complete, inconsistent, awfully written sludge, is blowing my mind. Blowing it to the point that I actually want to transfer my own ideas to print. Will it be as successful as Doctor Who? I highly doubt it, but my god, at least I will have done something good for the world of fiction and sci-fi. Anyway, as mentioned before, I will be doing a live stream on Thursday at 10:30, simply going through the new special, the plot points and all that, and giving my thoughts on each part, because there is quite a bit to say about it. There is actually some good in it, but an awful lot of bad. And bear in mind, if the BBC thinks that it is too pandering, you can guarantee that I'm going to have a lot to say about the wokery in this show. because that's all it's a vehicle for now. But as a little teaser, they also accidentally put in a few anti-leftist messages in there, so I suppose we can actually appreciate that. It is one of those such badly written propaganda pieces that it actually ends up being anti-propaganda for the leftists. So have that to look forward to. In the meantime, catch me on YouTube, catch me on Rumble, follow my Twitter and all that. Like, subscribe, favourite, share with all your friends and family, because if you've been fed up of Doctor Who, then this video is simply an introduction to what I have to say on the special. So catch you Thursday there. Anyway, that's everything I had for you today, so once again, thank you very much for watching, and until next time, goodbye.